Hi, let's talk about the new improvements to location directives. When you open up the location directive form, you'll get a small notification about all the improvements we did, but let me talk you through them instead. The first thing we did was we improved the edit query capabilities. Today, you often have to click this button just to figure out how things have been set up. Now instead, we have a fact box showing you all the queries on the form, both for the header and for the actions, so you can see them immediately as you navigate through the form. This saves you a lot of mouse clicks and it makes it easier to set up as you have all the information you need at your fingertips. We also added a preview button, so when you're specifying a query, you may not even know what it's hitting, but now you can click preview so you can see that immediately. Previously, you would have to go through an entire flow and trial and error, see did it pick up what I expected. Now you can see what data is actually targeted immediately. We also improved the copy function, so you can now copy a location directive setup, including lines and actions, across warehouses, making it much easier to roll out your setup to a new warehouse. You can see here we just created a copy, and you can see that we have updated and copied everything and updated the query behind the scenes as well, so it matches the new warehouse. The next thing we did was we introduced something called acceptance test. Feedback we heard was that it's dangerous and hard to make changes to warehouse location directives because you don't know the implications of such changes. So acceptance test is a way for you to specify some requirements as a test that can then be run against your setup so you can validate if it works. So in this case, we're setting up one for warehouse 24, a pick operation for one item, and we specify a quantity of one. So where will we pick that from? So you can specify this as a test and we can then run it. So when we specify it as a test, of course, we also need to specify the expected outcome of the test. So the test will either fail or pass depending on that, on the results matching what we expect. So now we ran the test and we can see that in this case it passed. It found a location on a floor, and we're also capturing the work creation history logs. You can see that immediately. Again, you don't have to go through a real flow and create a warehouse, a sales order, and reach the warehouse and so on. Now this test passed because inventory already exists. Now suppose you don't want to have that dependency and say, hey, let's run it without having any inventory. Then we can simulate that as part of the test. And you can also add more inventory on top of a simulated empty warehouse. That way your test will be way more reliable as they do not have a dependency on what's actually on the warehouse. So in this case, you can see we now still have a passing test, even though it didn't take that dependency. It would be pretty cool if you could see that those tests immediately in the location directive form, and you can. So another fast tab allows you to run all the tests you have and see the results immediately on the location directive form. But wait, there's more. We can also show coverage for the test, so we can see which lines and which actions got actually hit when we ran through the test. This gives you a way to debug or troubleshoot your setup and understand why a test may or may not be failing. So let's try to change a value here to make the test fail. We can click save and then we can run again, and then we can see that now it's actually failing. We can also specify that the test should be run immediately when you change something. So let's flip that flag and go back in here and change the value so the test should be passing. So we change that it's applicable from quantity 1 and click save. And now we can see that the test is passing immediately. Another improvement we did was around the multi-SKU. That option only gave you two options, single SKU or multi-SKU. We added a new feature that's replacing multi-SKU with what we call a scope, and data is operated on the fly, so this can be turned on without any risks. For picks, you will have two options. You will have a single item or multiple item, but for puts, we have four options instead. We introduced a new one called all, and we introduced a new one called single item or order. So let's talk through them. So today you have single item or multiple items, but if you have a single order with multiple items and you would like to edit the query, it's not supported currently. This forces you to create work templates, a lot of them often. But with the new single item or order scope type, which is covering this scenario as well, you can edit the query, meaning you can set up location directives much simpler. You need fewer work templates as you do. As part of setting up location directives, it's a good practice to have a last resort location directive that will catch everything. Today you have to create one for single item, one for multiple items. Now we introduced one for all, which you can use, saving you one location directive in each setup. Thank you. We would like to hear your feedback.